Hi everyone, it's that time again when you might be starting to think about your year end. The year end process itself is straightforward. It's a simple wizard that includes a few options. However, before this, there's the preparation stage, ensuring you've posted everything, and of course, it involves running reports. But do you understand your reports and also the opportunities that you have to develop them? Ensuring they're accurate, but also that they provide you with a correct level of detail. Throughout January and February, we're running a series of live webinars to help develop your knowledge and understanding of the management reports available in Sage 50 accounts. We'll be starting with the basics, understanding nominal records and the structure of the nominal ledger. This is also ideal if you need to create new nominal codes. Following on from this, we'll examine the chart of accounts, looking at all aspects, including adding new layouts and editing existing ones. Our attention then turns to the management reports themselves, the trial balance, the profit and loss, and of course the balance sheet. We'll explain how to run them, what they show, and most importantly, how the figures calculate. We want you to be confident. On the management report session, one of the most common scenarios we're asked about is where you haven't yet run your year end, but need to generate a profit and loss report for your next financial year. We've got your back with this and have a specific webinar that explores the options you have available, whether it's running reports for your new financial year or even a previous one. The last webinar in the series looks at reconciling your age debtors and age creditor reports at year end, ensuring that the balances agree with the figures on your trial balance and the balance sheet. Of course, this could be done at any time, such as part of your month-end process. So come along and we'll demonstrate what to check and how to run them to ensure everything agrees. If you'd like to attend any or all of these sessions to help develop your knowledge and boost your confidence, then simply head along to sage.co.uk/webinars and register for your free place. These, along with loads of other topics, including how to run your year end, are available. See you soon.
Hi everybody! You might be approaching the end of your financial year and it's the perfect time to get your Sage 50 accounts in order. The year-end process itself is simple. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or if it's your first time, it's just a few steps in the wizard. But before you dive in, there are some important checks and housekeeping tasks that will just make everything run smoothly. Things like archiving your company data just keeps it organised and improves performance. We'll show you how to create an archive and why it's a good habit. Then there's backing up your data, which is essential before making any changes, and we'll share best practice just to ensure your backups are reliable. And avoid accidental postings into a closed period by setting a lock date. It's quick to do and it saves headaches later. We'll also guide you through the year-end wizard as well, step by step, so you can complete the process with confidence. If you need to tidy up older unused records, we'll show you how to do that as well in our Delete Your Records webinar. And then we'll also cover how to clear the audit trail. It can help speed things up and we'll explain when it's appropriate and how to do that safely. So to help you to prepare, we're hosting a series of live webinars throughout January and February. These sessions will give you practical tips and demonstrations so you feel confident about your year end and keep your accounts in great shape. Don't miss this opportunity to start the new year with clean, organised data and peace of mind. Make sure you reserve your spot today at sage.co.uk/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well today and the weather's a bit nicer where you are. I feel like I've not seen the sun all this year yet. but hopefully it's a bit better where you are. So today's webinar is all about clearing out old records that are no longer in use. And in this session, we're going to be concentrating on things like the customer and supplier records, along with nominal and bank records. Later on in the month, we're going to be looking at clearing out things like your invoices, orders and quotes, along with stock transactions and records. So if you want more information on how to clear those out and the implications on that as well, don't forget to get signed up for those webinars too. The link's going to be on the slide for you. But I'm Laura. If you haven't heard me before, and I'm the host today, we've got Michael in the background who's going to be picking up any questions as well that you might have around today's topic as well. So make sure, as always, you keep him busy too. So before we get started, just the usual housekeeping rules there. So your mic's automatically muted, but you'll see there is a little question icon, icon, not iCar, on the toolbar where you can submit your questions that you've got for Michael there. So make sure you keep them busy, pop them in there. Any questions that are off topic today, we will try and answer them, but we will prioritise anything around today's topic there. And I've also included the slides in the handout section as well, as there are some links which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, make sure you do that during the session. And there is that printer friendly version as well, if you want to make those notes too. So as I mentioned there, we're going to be looking at clearing out old records and how we do that, and also the criteria that needs to be met to remove those old records. I'm going to go through some demonstrations as well, just so we can see what that looks like in the programme. And then also at the end, I've got some links, like I mentioned there, around the topic today. So if you do want to download the slides, make sure you do it during the session, so then you've got those as well. So why should you look at clearing out your records? So clearing out records, it's a completely optional task. It's not something that you have to do, but it just ensures that the data that you use on a day-to-day basis is up to date. And having just relevant data in your live company can just make things like searches and filters work more efficiently for you too. Also, clearing out the older data can speed up general processing as well in the software in some cases. Now, what I will say is that if you are experiencing speed issues, please just bear in mind that it could be also external environmental factors. So things like the hardware that you're using, or if your data's on a server, so if it's held elsewhere rather than local on your computer. So these are all things which are going to impact the processing speeds. But if you have a lot of data as well, this can also contribute to that. When clearing out records, and to prevent anything being deleted in error, there is a criteria that the record needs to meet. So for things like customers and supplier records, you can delete those if you have no, or they have no remaining balance on them. And there's also no transactions on the activity and no project associations as well. For things like nominal records on there, you can delete those if they've got no balance, no transactions associated with them as well. And also they're not a control account. So if this is the case, that you'd need to be looking at changing that control account to another nominal. And the nominal can't be the default cash sales or bank account either. There's a few more less common ones, such as not being used with the direct debit manager, or invoice payments, or not being marked as a CIS account either. But there is a list. I've included a link to the guide on there which covers deleting old records, which gives you sort of a more extensive list of the criteria rather than you just listening to me read them out on there. But those are the main reasons for them. If you can't delete a record, or you don't want to delete it either, some people just don't like to delete records, maybe because you might deal with that customer or supplier again in the future. You can mark it as inactive, and I'm going to touch on that a bit later on as well. We are covering inactive records in more details next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, just with it being a whole webinar in itself, but it's good to know what your alternatives are. So I will touch on this in today's session too. So what I'll do is I'll pop into my program. We'll have a look at a few things first of all. So what I would always say is if you're going to be looking at deleting anything out of the system there, always take a backup first of all and an archive, because if you've got a backup, you can't do anything wrong. So if you put the wrong date in to delete something maybe, that's fine, just restore it back and you can do it again on there. So just for anybody who doesn't know, taking a backup, obviously we're just going to go to File in the very top left-hand corner, go to Backup. You'll just get that confirmation just to say it's going to close any open windows there. Just say yes to that, and you'll get that standard backup window. So you can include other options in your backup if you want to, but the main one we're going to be including is data files on there. You can change the file name, so maybe it's at the end of your company name, if you just wanted to pop in there that it was prior to deleting customers or suppliers, just anything that makes it sort of stand out as to why you've taken that backup. And again, you can change the location if you want to. I've taken a backup prior to doing this, so that's just to show you where that backup option is. And then also taking an archive as well. So archiving, I am going to be going into archiving. We've got a full webinar on that tomorrow at 11, but just to show you where the archive is, we go to Tools at the top and into Period End. You've got that archive option there. So then you can take an archive, which is like a screenshot of your company that you can pop back into. But again, get signed up for that webinar tomorrow if you want more information on the company archive, but just to show you where that option is in there. So if you're deleting anything out, just take a backup and an archive first of all. Okay. So we'll look at customers first of all. So for customers and suppliers, there's two different ways that you can remove old records out of the program. So the first way is manually. So we'll have a look at the manual option within customers. So you can see here, I've got a number of customers in here. Some have got a zero balance, some have got balances on them. And remember, part of the criteria is it needs to have a zero balance. So if we have a look at this customer here, it shows that it's a zero balance. If I go to delete at the top, just choose that option. It'll ask me, am I sure I want to delete the record? I'm just going to say yes to that. And it brings up this message here. So it tells me the possible reasons as to why I can't delete that record. So the top two are the main ones that we see. So the balance remaining on the account. Well, we know it's not that one because we can see the balance is zero. The second one is transactions are still associated with the account. So it means that if we looked at the activity, there's transactions in there. And then we've also got the other two, which I mentioned on the slides there. So it's associated with a project, or direct debit mandate is associated with the account on there. So just to show you what that looks like. So if I click OK to that, we'll have a look at the activity on here. So if I click on activity at the top, it's going to open up the activity for that record. We can see we've got transactions on there. So this is why it's not letting me delete it, because we've got transactions on this particular record there. So the way to clear the activity is to run the clear audit trail, which we're running a webinar on this Friday. Michael's doing that webinar at Friday at 11 o'clock. So it goes over clearing that audit trail, clearing down all transactions. But essentially, when you clear the audit trail, the program uses a date which you select to clear down all transactions that meet the criteria there. So I'll not be covering that today, but just to show you why that's not going to delete that. But what we can do is we can mark it as inactive, and I'll come on to that a bit later on. So if I select a different one and just show you. So this is, we've got Amy's Antiques here, zero balance. If I can double click on it to look at the activity as well, it'll open up the record, and I can go to activity that way. We can see straight away there's nothing on there, there's no activity. So if I just have that highlighted, delete at the top, it'll just check I want to delete that in case I've clicked it by mistake. Yes, I do. Just deletes that out there for me. So you can see it's nice and easy if there's nothing showing on there. If it meets that criteria, it'll just delete that for me. So what you can do is, if you've got multiple records that you want to highlight, you can highlight multiple ones. So if I'm using the Windows selection style. So if I hold down Shift and just click on records, I can highlight multiple ones. Now, depending on your selection style, and I'll show you where that is, you might be set up as the Sage selection style, where you can just click on records. So you can see there, it just jumps around when I'm doing it. If I go to Tools at the top and into Options, and this is where we can change that the selection style, it'll open up this window. And if I go to the Environment tab at the top, we've got these two options. So mine's set to Windows Selection Styles. That's where I'm holding Control and I'm clicking to highlight multiple records. If I change it to Sage Selection, just click OK to that. I'll go back into Customers. Now, I appreciate you can't see my hand that it's holding the control, but you'll just have to take my word for it. I can now just click on multiple records and they stay highlighted. So just depending on your selection style. So you can highlight multiple records if you want to. Alternatively, I just click on clear just to clear all those. Say I wanted just to run it through and just get rid of any that hit that criteria. If I click on swap at the top, it's going to highlight absolutely everything for me. So I've got all of my transactions, or sorry, all of my customer records, they're all highlighted in there. We can see I've got 45 records here. If I just want to go to delete, so if I click on delete at the top, say if I had one in here before I do that, say I had one that I knew that I didn't want to delete. So if I go, I'm going to highlight that one. See, I've created a brand new customer. They've got no transactions on there, so I definitely don't want that one deleted. If I highlight one of them, so if I highlight that one, I click on delete now, it's going to say, again, just checking I want to delete them. It'll give me this information message again. So it's just letting me know that not all records selected were able to be deleted. And again, just those possible reasons. So if I click OK to that, we'll see now, if I just show you at the top there, I've now got just 42 records showing on there. So I had 45 before. So 3 of my customers met that criteria just for me to remove them out of the program there. So that's another way of just being able to do that. So if I clear that, just so it's not so green in your face there. So you can highlight them one at a time if you want to. You can use the clear and swap option and just delete if you want to as well. Now, the other way of deleting customers or suppliers is using the data management tool, which I'm going to show you now as well. So suppliers, exactly the same way as customers, you can just click on them, delete them, as long as they meet the criteria. You can use the clear and the swap option. And if there's a few that you know that you don't want to delete, you can just highlight them in there if you know that they meet that criteria and you don't want them getting caught up in that. So it's just exactly the same in suppliers. But the data management tool, so I'll show you that now. So if we go to tools at the top, into period end, I'm going to choose data management. And again, just that window, just saying you're going to lose any unsaved data, just means if you were halfway through inputting an invoice, it would close that and you wouldn't get to save it. So it opens up this window on here. And it just tells us in order to make daily processing in Sage 50 accounts as quick and efficient as possible, we recommend you only store digital records for the current and previous year in your live company. By removing all transactions and records that are no longer needed to be viewed regularly, you'll find that most tasks become much faster. So you can still access your old data by opening an archive company or restoring a backup. So remember, we looked at the backup and the archive beforehand. This process will get you to take one as well, just remind you that you need to take one. And it says the data management takes you through safely removing all transactions and records. We just need to click continue. In the compliance, it just tells us that just to keep regular backups of your data, which hopefully you're doing anyway, just making sure that you've got that backed up. And provided you've got backups or a company archive, you don't need to retain historical records in your live company data. So it's just telling you that really you just need the relevant data that you're using in there. So if I click continue, take a backup. So it'll want you to take a backup. I've just taken one on there. So you've seen sort of what the backup process looks like. And again, taken an archive. What I would say is it does say it's optional. I would always just say take one. It's far better to have an archive and not need it than to need the archive and not have it. And I've said that before because it is much easier just to pop back into an archive, which I'll be going through on the webinar tomorrow at 11 o'clock. But if I click continue, we get this window. And it's quite a handy window. So if you went into yours now, if you're logged in as manager or as an administrator user, you'll be able to access that data management tool. And what it tells us here, you can see I've got a very small data set. So transaction wise, I've got under 1600, but it tells us what the excess level, so not to exceed 250,000. Now, if you go into yours and you think, oh, I've got way more than that, don't worry, it's not going to break it. It'll run more efficiently because it's not having to search through all of the records and all of the transactions when you're processing if you've got a recommended level of that data. And we can see here for invoices, no more than 50,000. I've only got 19, so I'm just under the recommended level. And we've got for customers and for suppliers, no more than 5,000 each. Again, I've got a very small data set. But the clear audit trail, so Michael's going to be going through this on Friday. That's basically clearing out old transactions. So from your transactions module, you'll choose a date, it'll clear them down for you, provided it hits that criteria. We've also got delete invoices. So we've got loads of old invoices. Again, it's something we're going to be going through. There's a webinar covering deleting invoices and orders and quotations. So we'll be going through that in more detail then. And then we can review the customer records. So I've deleted all the ones out of my program that I can. You saw before, I highlighted everything, just click delete, and anything that met that criteria, it took out, which was 3 of them because I've only got a small data set. So we'll have a look at reviewing the the supplier records. So if I click on review supplier records, get another window, and it just tells us that the process will identify the supplier records where the last invoice date is on or before the date specified below. And we can choose that date. So I can amend that if I want to, just by clicking on the little calendar, or you can just free type into there if I want to. I'm just going to leave it as it is on there. So it's going to run, my financial year runs from January to December. So I've just started January 26. So I'm going to keep this financial year and last, and I'm going to clear anything down prior to that. Tells us about that criteria again as well. So the supplier record can only be removed if there's no balance or transaction history. So that's your activity on there. And it's not acting as a subcontractor's third party. So if I click review, it's going to review them for me, and it's going to give me this list. Now it tells me that 3 of my suppliers meet that criteria. You might have a lot longer list on there. I've just got the 3, but essentially I can then say, right, well, actually, I want to keep EU supplier. I might use them again in the future. I haven't for a while, but I know that I might need them soon. So what we can do is you can choose which ones you want to delete. Now, because I've changed mine to the Sage selection style, I need to hit Control again now to highlight them. So I can either highlight them that way, just by clicking one at a time. Tells me that I've got 2 records selected, so I know that when I click delete, it's only going to delete those 2. If you've got loads, you can clear, select all of them, and then just have a look through, see which ones you know you want to keep, and you're gonna just click on it basically, so it unselects it, which might be a bit easier if you've got, say, 100 in there, rather than having to go through each one and click on the ones that you want to delete, but just whichever way works for you. So say I just want to delete these 2 supplier records. I know I've got 2 selected. I'm just going to click delete, and it tells me 2 supplier records have successfully been deleted. So they've been removed out there. So that's a good way of doing it because it gives you that option to review which ones you're removing. So if you're just highlighting and just getting rid of them like we did manually with the customers, you're not necessarily going to know which ones are being deleted out there. But when you're using the data management tool, you can actually have a look and you can see which ones are being removed. You can review that on there. So if I click on review again, we should only have that one left. So I've just got my EU supplier there. It's quite straightforward. Customers, it just looks exactly the same on there, exactly the same information. But if I review the customers, I've got none because I went through and manually deleted them on there. But just to show you that it looks the same. So that's the data management option. So that can be really handy, even just for popping in and just seeing that you're not exceeding the levels. So you can see I've got green ticks on here. If I had any blue circles with an eye in it, that just lets us know that I'm approaching that level of the exceeded amount. If I've got any orange triangles, it just means I'm exceeding that amount on there. But again, don't panic. It's not going to break the system. It's just a recommended level on there. So close out with that there. So that's your customers and your suppliers on there. So you can manually delete them and you can use that data management tool, which is quite handy. So nominal codes and bank accounts, again, has to hit a criteria just so we're making sure that you're not deleting anything by mistake on there. So if we pop into nominal codes, so your criteria for those are things like, again, a zero balance, no associated transactions. There can't be a control account. If they are, you would just need to amend that. So your control accounts are just in settings at the top here. And if you go down to control accounts, it will give you a list. Again, just that window saying it's going to close any unsaved data. Drag that across. It gives you a list of your control accounts in here. So if you're trying to delete one, it won't let you delete any of them in here. If you need to change one, you can change the control account to a different nominal code. It will then let you delete that one if you need to. But if it's telling you that it's a control account, that's where it's coming from, just within there. So that was just in settings and control accounts. It just opens that little window, tells you which ones are your control accounts. And they also can't be the default cash or sales bank account either. But essentially, if we go back into nominal codes, just pretty much the same as the manual deleting of the customers and the suppliers on there, you can highlight. So I've got one here, it's got no balance on it, 1101. We can highlight it and we can just delete it on there. So I could just highlight, go to the top, and I can delete. Just double checks that I want to delete it. I haven't clicked on it by mistake. Say yes, I do. And it just takes it out. So I've got 1100 and it jumps up to 02 now. So it's just deleted that one out for me. So the nominal codes, that doesn't appear in the data management option, but you can, again, if you wanted to swap and highlight everything, it's entirely up to you. If you know that you've got a number of them that you want to keep, or you've got ones that you want to delete, you can highlight ones that you want to keep on there. Then anything that you've got highlighted, you can just go to delete and it will remove them out. Or alternatively, if you've got single ones like we've just seen there, you can highlight a few and you can just delete them as well. So it just removes them out there. As for bank accounts, so bank accounts on there, if we go just on the left-hand side into my bank account there, they can be deleted from either. So you can either delete them from the nominal ledger that we've just been in. That's because they're also a nominal record, but it's also listed as a bank account. So we'd have, I think in here, I think this one's got activity on it. So I'll just have a quick look. Say yes, so this one's got activity on here. So it's not going to let me delete this one. If I try and delete this bank account record here, even though it's got a zero balance, if I go to delete, it's going to pop up and just say it's got transactions linked to it. It can't be deleted. So it tells us why it can't be deleted. So if I say OK to that. So if I go and just create a new one, I'm just going to click new at the top just to create a new one just for the purpose of the demonstration. We'll go with the next number, 1252. And it's just a warning popping up. So this is just telling me that it's outside of the chart of accounts range on there. So if you've been on Michael's webinar, you'll know that any new nominal codes that you create, you need to make sure it's incorporated in that chart of accounts. But just for the purpose of the demonstration, I know I'm going to be deleting it anyway. So I'm just going to put Laura in there for the nominal name, make it nice and straightforward. Save that. Close that window. And now there's my new bank account there. It's got nothing on it. It's got no transactions associated with it. If we pop into nominal codes and have a look, there it is there, there's my name there. We can see that new nominal code has been created. So I can either just delete it from my nominal list on here, just by clicking delete at the top, or I can pop into bank accounts and I can just delete it from in here. So just go up to the top, click on delete. Am I sure? Yes, I am. And it just deletes it there for me. It has a little think about it there. It's deleted it out there. You don't have the option to clear or swap within bank accounts module like you do with the others. Chances are you're not going to have lists and lists of bank accounts, and you can only highlight one at a time anyway. So if we have a look, I changed my selection method to the Sage selection style. I can only click on one at a time there. It doesn't let me select multiple bank accounts there. But you can see it's quite straightforward. As long as it meets the criteria, you've got the option of doing it manually. But you've also got that data management tool for the customers and the suppliers, and also the clear audit trail and invoices, which we'll come on to in those webinars as well. But I'm just going to pop back to my slides because I just want to cover inactive records as well there. So like I said, there may be records which can't be cleared due to there being remaining activity, like we've just seen there. However, the accounts are no longer in use. So in this scenario, you could mark them as inactive if they meet that criteria. So like I say, I won't go into too much depth with it because it is a whole webinar in itself that's running next Tuesday. But I just want to show you it as an alternative. So what you can do if you can't delete them there. So the criteria depends on the type of record that you're making inactive. And I've included a link there on the slide which covers the reasons why you can't flag it as inactive. Just because, again, for different types of record, there'll be different criteria and you'll just be sitting listening to me read those out to you there. But it does include things like the main ones are the account balance not being zero. There's unallocated transactions. So for example, if you've got a record, but it's got a zero balance and you look at the activity on there, it may be that you have a sales invoice and a sales credit note which match each other off, but they're not allocated to each other. So they've got unallocated transactions on them. You can't mark it as an active that way. You would just need to make sure that you've got no unallocated transactions. If they've got recurring entries, invoices, or sales orders, if they exist. If it's a control account or a default nominal code. And it can't be listed as a ratio account as well. And like I say, for inactive records, I'll go into more detail in this when we cover the actual topic itself. But marking a record as inactive, it just means you can exclude them from your record list. So you're only going to see active records. It means you can apply a filter or run a report to include these. And alternatively, you might just want a list of them as well. So for example, you might have a list of customers that you've had no interaction with for a period of time, and you just want to send out a mailing list to them. But I'm going to pop back into my program and I'm just going to show you how you can mark it as inactive on there. But I've added a link on that slide too. So if you want to sign up just to that marking your or managing your list with inactive records next week, then we'll go through that in more detail. But I just want to cover it to show you how you can do that. So I'll pop back into my program here. We'll go to customers. And we'll have a look. So we know before we highlighted everything and we deleted everything we can. So anything in here or everything in here now can't be deleted for one reason or another. So I've got a record here, Dave's Diner. I haven't used them for ages, say. They've got a zero balance and I can't delete them because there's activity on there and I haven't run my clear audit trail yet. So what I can do is I can mark it as inactive there. So if I can either double click on it to open, we'll double click on it. We'll double click on it just to open up the record because I'm thinking that we're going to look at the activity. We're not going to look at that at the moment. And it opens up, make that a bit bigger, doesn't really sort of spread it across the screen. We've got in the details for this particular customer, under account details, there's a little tick box that says inactive. I just click on the little question mark just to show you that. And it just tells us to set the customer as inactive to prevent any further activity on the account. You can exclude inactive customers from ledgers and selection lists. Okay, so if I tick that, say, right, I'm going to make this one inactive and I click save. And then we'll just close that window. Now, if you have a look, it looks like absolutely nothing's happened, nothing's changed on there. We've still got Dave's Diner, he's still in there. But along the top here, we can add another column in just to show inactive records. So if I right click in here, you can decide what you want to show. So there's loads of different things in here. I want to show the inactive records. So I'm just going to click on inactive at the top and it shows me, it gives me another column and we can actually see I've got 3 that are inactive. So I've got 3 customers here that are inactive on there. So it tells me that those are inactive, but I can go one step further and I can hide them in the background as well. So at the moment, I've got 42 records. In the top right-hand corner where it says include inactive, there's a little tick box which is ticked at the moment. If I untick that, it's now not including those inactive records. So Dave's Diner's gone. It's not there. Still in the background. At the minute, it's telling me now I've got 39 records. It is still in the background. So if I go and click on it again, so if I tick to include them, it brings them back for me. So if you can't delete them, or you haven't had time to run the clear audit trail, but you want to move them out the way for now until you're ready to sort of run that clear audit trail, or if you don't want to delete them, maybe you can mark them as inactive. But like I say, we are going through that fully in more detail on there next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. But I just wanted to say there is another way of doing it if you don't want them showing in the program. So I'll just pop back to my slides there. So the last thing that I want to mention is compressing your data, okay? So following deleting records, to reduce the size of your data files, what you need to do is compress the data on there. The best way that I used to explain it to customers when I was on the phone on technical support was if you think a bit like you've got a bookcase full of books, you remove some of those books from there and the ones left are sort of scattered all over the shelves. What compressing the data does is it neatly puts all of the books to one side and gives you the rest of that space as free space. So it tidies it up for you. So if you delete a record from your customer list, the size of your data does not reduce until the sales ledger is compressed. What I would say is always just, again, take a backup, make sure you've got an error-free backup prior to running the routine, and then just compress the data. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I'll pop back into my program. And because I've got a very, very small data set that's local, if you blink, you'll miss it when I run it on mine. When you run it on yours, it will probably take a bit longer. Can take up to half an hour, depending on sort of how much data that you've got in there. So if you're running through all of this, maybe just set it away at the end of the day there. But we're going to go to File at the very top, in the top left-hand corner, down to Maintenance, and it just says it's going to close other windows. Say yes to that, drag it across because it always opens on my other screen. And we get this file maintenance window, and you might have seen it before. You can check your data here as well, so you don't have to only check your data when you do a backup. When you get that option, when you take the backup, it'll say, do you want to check the data? Always a good idea, but you can pop in here just to check it whenever you want. You can also check your last results as well from here. I am digressing a little bit, but just to show you, we click on that, it tells me that, you know, it was ran today, and I've got no errors and no warnings, and I've just got some comments on there. But that's just completely off topic on there, but just to show you can see that. So the compression of the data, it's just on the top right hand side there. And it tells us here, if you've previously deleted large amounts of data, run this option to reclaim disk space used by the deleted records. Okay, so if I click on that, drag it over. See, at the minute, they're all grayed out on there because I've got compress all data files. Now, if you leave all data files ticked, it can take a lot longer on there. So just compress the areas that you've been deleting records out of. So supplier records, we're going to look at the purchase ledger, customers, the sales ledger, nominal ledger for the nominal codes, and bank accounts if we've deleted anything out of there as well. So just looking at the ones that we've done today. Now, when I click on compress, like I say, if you blink, you'll miss it. But there, that's it done. So you might get a window where you've got the bar going across and you'll see sort of files moving and it'll tell you which area that it's compressing at that time. And that's normal for it to take a bit longer. But I've as you've seen, I've got hardly any customers or any suppliers in there. So it was incredibly fast. Okay. So don't worry if you think, oh, it's taking a long time on there. It's just tidying up those files in the background. And then you've got that disk space back. But don't worry if you've got the backups and you've got the archives on there, you can't do anything wrong. I know some people sort of worry about deleting things out of the program if you sort of put the wrong date in or you delete the wrong one. Just restore it back and just do it again. So it's absolutely fine. You've got the backups there. That's what they're there for. That's compressing that data. So summary on there. So just for clearing out your records, like I mentioned, it's an optional task. You're under no obligation to complete these, but it's more just good practice, good housekeeping on there, just keep things nice and tidy. Clearing all the data, it might allow you to work more efficiently as well in your data set. So if you've got a large data set, which you can check by looking in the data management tool on there, which we looked at earlier, you just need to be logged in as manager or a user with full access administrator rights on there. If you're over the recommended levels, you might find that the clearing out allows the program to work more efficiently because it's not having to search through and process as many records or search through as many transactions on there as well. Like I mentioned though, it may be that it can be down to other things as well. So if you're experiencing speed issues, please bear in mind it could be things like external environmental factors also impacting those. And always ensure just to take a full backup and ensure you have an archive prior to clearing out records. Just means if you put the wrong date in to clear things down, you can easily just restore it back and just do it again. The records will only clear if they've met that criteria. And if you can't remove an item, an alternative may be for you just to mark that record as inactive, which don't forget, we're covering next Tuesday at 2 o'clock there in more detail. And then we've got compressing that data. So compressing the data just allows you to reclaim that disk space. So I've popped on some useful links on here as well. So what is data management? That's a really good one. I used to use that on technical support just to show people you can have a look and just see what your data levels look like when that guide on there. Also compressing your data and tidying up your data after year end as well. And then we've also got the sage.co.uk help centre link on there as well, just for anything else that you might be looking for on there too. So I'll keep this open for a couple more moments. I think you've been keeping Michael quite busy. I don't see there's not loads of questions coming, so hopefully I'm doing something right on there. Don't forget you'll get a recording of today's session in around about an hour's time as well via email. So if you want to watch it back at your own pace while you're having a look at it, things in your own system, or if you want to give it to a colleague to watch, then that's going to be available for you too. And you can also access our webinars page at sage.co.uk/webinars. All the past recordings are free in there of you, along with them signing up for the upcoming ones as well. We've just been looking at Marches. So we've got some new ones coming out soon. Those should be available for you to register on by the end of the week, hopefully, for March on there. Somebody did ask on the comments on the survey that they sent back if we could have a look at doing bank feeds. So we're looking at doing bank feeds again as well in March, as well as another badge too. We've also got our community hub, which if you haven't seen this before, it's an online forum for Sage 50 accounts users, just to share knowledge, swap ideas and solve problems together. It's completely free to join. You can ask questions on there where other users and Sage experts will help and advise you. Or if you know the answer to something, you can pop on there as well and give advice. But you can just keep up to date with what's happening, and it's open 24/7 as well. But there's a link that takes you straight to the hub there. So I've included an additional survey, which I hope you won't mind taking a quick look at. Just helps us shape our learning around what matters to you. There is a QR code which you can scan if you just want to scan that with your phone there, or there is a link on the slide as well when you download that too. But that brings us to the end of today's session. So I hope that you found that useful. Any questions that we haven't been able to cover, which I think we're completely on top of it, to be fair, there's nothing else come in there, but I would have popped you over an email had we missed anything, but we haven't there. As always, you're going to get a survey when you leave today's session. So I'd love it if you could leave us any feedback. Like I say, any comments around what else you'd like to see. We've put in bank feeds again off the back of somebody else asking for that. And we've got the new badge series coming up as well. So we're going to run a new badge on there on all things invoicing. I think it's going to be on there. So we're going to be running that in March as well. So more to come on that when it comes out as well. But any comments, pop them in. We do love reading them. But for now, thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the sun finally comes out. Thanks for attending.